At 12:41 a.m. on March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 took off from Kuala Lumpur. There were 227 passengers and 12 crew on board. The flight was heading to Beijing. It should have taken about 6 hours. 1 hour later, the plane stopped answering air traffic control. No distress call, no mayday, no sign of trouble. This is the story of the last known hours of Flight 370. At 11:30 p.m. on March 7, 2014, people began to arrive at Kuala Lumpur International Airport. They came for Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. The flight would go to Beijing. It was a routine overnight flight. Families carried luggage. Business travelers checked email. Children yawned. Passengers came from many countries. 14 nationalities were on the flight. Most were Chinese citizens. There were also Malaysians, Indians, Indonesians, Australians, Americans, and others. 20 employees from Freescale Semiconductor were on board. They had attended a meeting in Kuala Lumpur. They were returning home. Peng Li and his wife Yuan had just been married. They were on their honeymoon. 2-year-old Wang Moheng held a toy airplane. He traveled with his parents. Philip Wood was an IBM executive from Texas. He planned to meet colleagues in Beijing. He had called his girlfriend the night before. Each passenger had a life waiting for them in Beijing. Each had family and plans. The aircraft was a Boeing 777-200ER. This plane had served Malaysia Airlines since 2002. It had flown over 53,000 hours. Its last A-check maintenance was on February 23, 2014. No mechanical problems were reported. Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah was 53 years old. He had 33 years with Malaysia Airlines. He had logged more than 18,000 flight hours. Zahari owned a home flight simulator. He trained often. First Officer Farik Abdul Hamid was 27. He had about 2,700 total flight hours. He was still new on the 777. Regulations required an experienced captain to supervise his flights. The cabin crew included senior flight attendant Go Sok Lei. She had 30 years of experience. The crew completed their pre-flight briefings. They prepared for a normal overnight flight. At 12:36 a.m., all 239 people were seated. Flight 370 had enough fuel for Beijing plus reserves. Weather was good. At 12:41 a.m., the plane pushed back from Gate C1. The engine started normally. At 12:42 a.m., tower cleared the flight for takeoff. The 777 lifted into the night sky. By 12:50 a.m., the plane reached 35,000 feet. It flew northeast over the Malaysian peninsula. The flight planned to follow waypoints to Beijing. The autopilot would fly the route. The pilots would monitor and communicate with air traffic control. The flight management system had the route programmed. At 1:01 a.m., Flight 370 sent a routine position report to Malaysian Air Traffic Control. Everything looked normal. Then, at 1:07 a.m., the aircraft's ACARS system stopped sending messages. ACARS sends engine and system data to the airline. It normally sent messages every 30 minutes. The missing ACARS message was not noticed by air traffic control. It was sent to the airline's maintenance center. At 1:19 a.m., Flight 370 was flying over the South China Sea. The plane was close to a navigation point called Igari. Pilots use these points like road signs in the sky. Igari is one of the spots where Malaysian air traffic control normally tells pilots to switch radio contact to Vietnam. That was the moment the co-pilot said his last words.
Good night, Malaysia 370.
Good night, Malaysian 370. The voice sounded calm.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
Controllers could not tell who spoke. At 1:21 a.m., the flight's transponder stopped transmitting.
Malaysian 370, do you copy?
The aircraft vanished from civilian radar screens. Vietnamese controllers waited for the next call. It never came. They tried to contact the plane. No response.
Come on. Is anyone there?
What happened in the cockpit in those minutes after 1:19 a.m.? Civilian radar lost the plane. Military radar still tracked something. At 1:21 a.m., Malaysian military radar detected an unknown aircraft near Igari. The aircraft made a sharp left turn. It did not continue northeast toward Vietnam. It headed back over the Malay Peninsula. The turn was abrupt. It was not a normal course correction. Military radar tracked the plane across Malaysia. It passed Penang at 1:52 a.m. at 35,000 feet. At 2:22 a.m., the military radar contact disappeared near Pulau Perak in the Strait of Malacca. After that moment, no radar system showed the flight. By morning, families in Beijing waited at the airport. The plane did not arrive. Malaysia Airlines issued its first statement at 7:24 a.m. They said contact had been lost. At first, authorities believed the aircraft had been lost over the South China Sea. Vietnamese and Malaysian controllers were not sure who had the flight's last known position. This confusion delayed the search. Planes and ships began to look in the wrong area. Military radar data existed that showed the turnback across Malaysia. It was not shared quickly. When investigators later revealed the turn, the search area grew much larger. 2 passengers had used stolen European passports to board. The passports belonged to Christian Kozel of Austria and Luigi Maraldi of Italy. The real passport holders were safe in Europe. The men using the stolen passports were later identified. They were Iranian nationals seeking asylum in Europe. One was 19, the other was 29. They had no links to terrorist groups. They had no known criminal records. Authorities investigated them. The investigation found no evidence of terrorism. Still, the stolen passports fueled early fears of an attack. Search and rescue teams focused on the South China Sea at first. Ships and planes from Malaysia, Vietnam, Singapore, and others searched for signs. They found nothing. No debris, no oil, no life rafts. As days passed, the search moved and expanded. On March 15th, satellite data changed the view of the flight. Inmarsat, a British satellite company, had recorded hourly automated signals from the plane. These signals continued until 8:19 a.m. local time. That was nearly 7 hours after the plane went missing from radar. The handshake signals did not give a location. They did show the plane was still moving. Analysts used these signals to plot 2 possible corridors. One corridor headed north through Central Asia. The other corridor led south into the Indian Ocean. Countries along the northern corridor checked their radar records. They reported no unknown aircraft that night. This reduced the chance the plane flew north. The southern corridor went over some of the most remote ocean on Earth. If the plane had gone south, finding it would be very hard. Australia took charge of the southern search area. The search moved 1,500 miles west of Perth, Western Australia. Ships and aircraft arrived. They searched large ocean areas. The ocean there is deep and rough. Weather often forced ships to stop. Detailed mapping of the seabed showed underwater mountains and valleys. Search teams used side-scan sonar and deep-sea equipment. The zone to search became vast and costly. On March 24, 2014, Malaysian authorities made a hard announcement. They said analysis showed the plane had flown south until it ran out of fuel. They said all 239 people on board had died. Malaysia Airlines sent text messages to relatives before the official announcement. The messages said the airline assumed the flight was lost and that no one had survived. Families reacted with anger and grief. Many wanted proof. They wanted wreckage and bodies. They did not accept the satellite analysis alone. The underwater search began in October 2014. Special ships mapped large areas of the seabed. Some areas were deeper than 12,000 feet. Ships found old shipwrecks and natural features. They found no sign of Flight 370 in the initial search. The search took months and years. It cost many millions of dollars. Search teams looked square mile by square mile. Each area took hours to cover. On July 29, 2015, someone found a large piece of debris on Réunion Island. Johnny Baig was cleaning the beach when he saw it. The piece was curved and looked like part of a wing. French investigators examined it. They confirmed it was a flaperon from Flight 370. This was the first clear proof the plane had crashed in the ocean. Ocean currents could carry debris from a South Indian Ocean crash to Réunion over time. Other pieces later washed up on coasts in Africa and on islands in the Indian Ocean. Investigators tested each fragment to confirm its origin. The debris showed signs of high-speed impact with water. Wing parts had damage like they hit water at hundreds of miles per hour. There was no clear sign of explosion or fire damage. That made a bomb less likely. Investigators looked at the flaps. On a planned water landing, pilots would extend flaps to slow the plane. Flap parts did not show evidence they were extended. This fact led to two main possibilities. Either the pilots were unable to act, or someone chose not to prepare for a landing. Both possibilities raise new questions for investigators. Investigators focused on Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah. He knew the 777 systems well. He had experience and the skills to turn off communication systems. His home flight simulator showed routes that some said resembled the plane's actual path. Police examined his life. They asked friends and family about his work and mindset. Some facts raised questions. His wife and children had moved out of the family home the day before the flight. Investigators noted this. Family said it was temporary. Zahari had political views and supported an opposition leader who had legal troubles in Malaysia. Some suggested he acted in protest. No evidence supported such a motive. Friends and colleagues defended him. They described him as professional and safety conscious. Investigators found no conclusive proof he planned the disappearance. The case against him remained circumstantial. Searchers never recovered the black boxes. The cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder would likely have told the full story. Both devices emit locator pings for about 30 days after a crash. Because the search area was remote, the beacons may have stopped before searchers reached the correct location. Without the recorders, investigators lacked direct evidence about the final hours. That is why the investigation had to rely on satellite data, radar records, and debris. In July 2018, Malaysia released its final report. The report said the disappearance was likely the result of deliberate action by someone on the aircraft. But the report could not say who and could not say why. Many countries and families criticized parts of the investigation. The report kept the case officially unsolved. Investigators and families pointed to gaps. Military radar data was not shared quickly. That delayed the search direction. International coordination could have been faster and clearer. Radar systems in some countries are not shared in real time. That created blind spots. The case led to new calls for better aircraft tracking. Aviation authorities changed some rules after MH370. Airlines now track aircraft more often on long flights. New systems can send more frequent location data. Manufacturers and regulators looked at how to make tracking harder to turn off. Some argued the changes were not enough. A determined person with technical skill can still disable systems. Search teams also improved technology for deep-water searches. New autonomous vehicles and sonar systems emerged after the case. Private companies and groups also searched. Ocean Infinity offered to search for the main wreckage in 2017. They proposed a no-find, no-fee contract. That meant they would be paid only if they located the wreck. Ocean Infinity used multiple autonomous drones to scan the seabed. Their search covered over 43,000 square miles. By May 2018, they had not found the main wreckage. The search ended. Families kept pressing for new searches and new data. Families of passengers and crew did not accept the lack of final proof. They pursued legal action and called for more searches. Grace Nathan, who lost her mother, led campaigns for answers. She organized other families and pushed authorities to act. Ghislain Watralos, who lost his wife and children, searched and fought for further investigation. For these families, the lack of remains made closure impossible. They still hope that one day the main wreckage and the black boxes will be found. Many theories spread after the disappearance. Some said a bomb or missile shot down the plane. Investigators found no signs of explosion on debris. Other claims suggested secret cargo or remote hacking. No evidence supported those ideas. Some theories pointed to state actors. Investigators did not find proof. Conspiracy ideas grew online. They often mixed facts and speculation. Investigators focused on data they could check. They tested debris, radar logs, and satellite data. Where evidence existed, it guided the official work. Where evidence was missing, the case remained open.